Alex. We got a lot to unpack today, my friend. You have spent a lot of time. I've got more than a decade at the Human Rights Foundation and Oslo Freedom Forum, connecting dissidents, journalists, and activists with technologists and thinkers. When you look back, what originally pulled you into this kind of work instead of a more traditional foreign policy path of sorts?
Yeah, well, I was fortunate to have a spot at the Human Rights Foundation when it was just starting, and I got a chance to learn from some of the most amazing people, some of the visionaries in the field of advancing liberty. Thor Halvorson being the person who created the Human Rights Foundation and who I learned so much from, and we got a chance to network with all kinds of movements and people around the world and understand what they needed. And along the way, we realized they were having a lot of problems with money, not necessarily with having money or earning money, but with moving money around and with having it frozen and devalued and surveilled. And a lot of them were turning to Bitcoin over time. So we got very interested in that. And, you know, that's what I've been trying to work on ever since, is trying to make sure that people who need freedom money have freedom money and can learn about it and have access to it.
Love it. It's literally fighting the good fight. So I'm here for it, Alex. And in your books and in some of your talks, you often highlight that most of the world doesn't enjoy what you call financial privilege. Can you remember like a
Yeah.
specific trip or maybe a conversation with an activist where you first realized that money itself was one of the main weapons dictators use against people?
Yeah, well, Thor himself is from Venezuela, and I worked at the time with quite a few Venezuelans, and I think Venezuela is the most obvious example. It's in many people's minds of vivid hyperinflation and vivid sort of statism when it comes to the monetary system. Um, People have images in their heads of Venezuelans with essentially wheelbarrows of cash. It's sort of like the modern Weimar Germany. Of course, there's other examples too. Many, too many to count. Unfortunately, Zimbabwe, Iran, Turkey, Nigeria, Argentina, Cuba, so many others. And that's something we started to understand, is that the fiat money system is just completely broken, and it may work for some people decently enough. Even in the places where it quote unquote works, no one in their right mind would save cash. It loses money every year, guaranteed. So it's interesting. Even in advanced economies, you're told that money is not a good store of value, and but that's fine because you could just obviously just invest in stocks. They grow really well, and you start to realize that this whole system's so broken because only a handful of people on Earth, relatively speaking, can invest in stocks and government bonds located in the U.S. And for most people, their savings technology is terrible fiat money or sheet metal or cattle or something like that. And the ability to upgrade to Bitcoin, which has been the best investment in the world since it was created, is just really amazing. So, we started seeing it as money that was open for everybody, and especially useful for those who are being persecuted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've read that you many times have called Bitcoin freedom money. So Alex, like what was the actual moment you stopped viewing Bitcoin as like this curious tech experiment and started seeing it as a serious tool for human rights and civil resistance? Like what was that process like? Were you apprehensive toward getting on the
Mm.
Bitcoin train at first like many of us were, or what was your journey like?
Yeah, I was very skeptical. Maybe not like aggressively skeptical, but I just didn't get it. I'd been exposed to Bitcoin very early, 2011, 2012 era, and I thought it was curious, but I was interested. I mean, we even started accepting Bitcoin donations in 2014. We ran a campaign in 2013, but I just didn't quite get the central nature of it until probably late 2016, early 2017. And that was certainly an interesting time to start getting into it. 2017 was a crazy year in Bitcoin, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of probably a confluence of things. I started learning more about it. Started watching a lot of Andreas Antonopoulos videos, and I got to watch the whole, um, kind of the block size wars kind of come to a finale,
Hmm.
and all of that happening really educated me about Bitcoin, and then I had to still learn a little bit more. It took me another year probably to fully understand that Bitcoin was freedom money, but not like, random altcoins that purported to be freedom money. That took me
Yeah.
another year probably. So it was a long journey, but I'm happy I undertook the journey. It's been very, very good for us, very good for the human rights movement, very good for the organization. Um, it helps make activists unstoppable. So it's been a real adventure.
Yeah. No, I mean, in your story, it resonates, or it sounds a lot like a lot of people's stories that I hear in this. There's like an initial skepticism, and everybody always laments that it took them a little longer to wrap their head around it than they wish
Yeah.
it did for obvious reasons. But, we're glad to have you here now. That's for darn sure. And before Bitcoin, the Human Rights Foundation was already supporting free speech and legal defense and direct aid. So my question is, Alex, like, how did you personally help push the organization towards starting to treat Bitcoin as part of its toolkit? Was there resistance internally, I got to imagine, or did people just immediately get it once you kind of, gave them more info on it?
Well, I mean, it's weird, right? If you haven't considered money, the technology of money, as part of the human rights struggle, to start bringing it in, people are uncomfortable. But I would say my colleagues were super supportive and extremely visionary. Most of them came actually from countries where money was used as a weapon against the people, where the system had collapsed, and they saw the value. So I'm blessed to be surrounded by people who supported me from essentially the beginning, from when I wanted to start doing it. So that's
Mm-hmm.
been very fortunate. Had we had a different group of people leading the org, I could have ended very differently. So yeah, just very
Mm-hmm.
blessed. They not only were patient and empathetic and understanding with me, but also supported enthusiastically this, through all the ups and downs.
Yeah.
Although it was mainly ups, but it's been a roller coaster. I'll put it to you that way.